welcome to the Alumni House Podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm the Quacker.
And Quacker, this week is a little different. Do you know why?
It's a lot different. We get a full slate of college football, entire weekend.
We have real college football. I'm a little bit annoyed. So I work with a guy who was a college tennis player and is a big fan of tennis. So this year, just from talking to him, I've kind of garnered a little bit more interest in tennis, at least the majors, than I ever have before. So I'm not disparaging tennis. I enjoy tennis and I respect tennis. But I'm a little bit annoyed because one of my favorite things about the time between week 0 and week 1 is all of the ESPN networks are traditionally saturated with college football coverage. And they're not this year because they are covering the U.S. Open. And I am not I'm not mad that they're covering the U.S. Open. I'm more mad that the U.S. Open is taking place this week. But yeah,
how dare they?
Yeah, how dare they? No, so we've got a lot of really cool things happening. You guys know me. So the Little League World Series is behind us, which is the final barrier between us and college football. The Home Run Derby is
Chinese Taipei, right?
Yep. Chinese Taipei won it. I actually watched just a little bit of the Home Run Derby. I can't remember what day it was. I think it might have been Sunday afternoon. I could be wrong, but whatever it was, I maybe it was Saturday, but there was nothing else on, and I was like, I'll watch a little bit, and it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed it. So, yeah. So before we jump into our episode for this week, we have an announcement. So the boys from the Alumni House, that being Quacker and myself, have a brand new show starting next Wednesday called Southbound, an NFL podcast focused on the NFC South specifically. We're going to talk about the whole league, but the lion's share of our time will be the NFC South. Of course, Quacker and I make no secret of the fact that we are both Saints fans, which is why we will be talking about the NFC South. And if you're wondering, as Saints fans, why we decided this year to be the year to start an NFL podcast, that's a good question. I don't know, because this is probably going to be the worst year New Orleans has had since before. Since before Katrina. Because once Drew Brees and Sean Payton got there, I don't think they won fewer than 7 games any season they were there. So, but anyway, want you guys to check that out. It'll be on the same channel, but it's going to be focused, like I said, on the NFL, and we are excited to do that. But why we're here tonight is to talk about the conferences in the Southeast and the key matchups for this weekend. So, Quacker, what do we have, first of all, in the American coming up this weekend?
All right, so with the American, we're going to start off Thursday night. It's actually 2 big games for the American Conference on Thursday night. So South Florida plays host to a playoff team from last year. Number 25, Boise State, comes in to Tampa to take on the Bulls. So you got some Broncos and Bulls fighting it out here on opening night. Well, opening afternoon, because it's 4:30 in the afternoon when the game starts.
Right.
So it's going to be kind of hot there in South Central Florida. As Matt likes to say, South Florida is above Central Florida, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. In terms of Southern, yeah. Florida's really weird. It's like the southwest corner of the Panhandle is pretty not Southern. The north or the southeast corner of the Panhandle is not very Southern, and then all the rest of Florida is Southern until you get to Orlando and Tampa, and then it's Southern again until you get to Dade County, and then it's not. So, yeah, that's generally true.
Um, and then the second game is going to be East Carolina is traveling up to play North Carolina State. So, well, I guess they're not traveling up; they'll be traveling probably down. It's the same state. That's a 6 o'clock game. That'll be on. Both these are on network. So the South Florida Boise State is on ESPN, so Prime Channel, and then East Carolina North Carolina State is on the ACC network. So two big games starting out here for the conference. Friday, there's not much to speak of. There's two games, but you got Army. They'll win that one, and I actually think Charlotte will lose their game against App State. So we'll just kind of skate over that. Saturday, FAU travels up to Maryland, and this is a pay me game for FAU.
I just want to clarify real quick. I was curious, so I looked it up. So, yes, East Carolina is going to be traveling northwest. So looks like they are kind of in the more like the barely east central North Carolina,
Okay.
but more south and more east than Chapel Hill. So, anyway,
Okay.
yeah. You said is it
I
North Carolina or North Carolina State?
North Carolina State,
Oh well,
but
never mind.
North Carolina State is right around. It's within 50 miles of Chapel Hill. So
That makes sense because like all of their major colleges are right there together. So
yeah. Now Matt, here's the big one for me for the weekend. For the American, Northwestern is traveling to Tulane. For an 11 o'clock kickoff on the ESPNU. So this is going to be the one where Tulane can kind of make some bones. Northwestern, they're kind of like Vanderbilt, as far as the power conference teams go. They're really smart. They have a good team every now and then. They're probably more in a downward swing right now, but still,
well, they're
Tulane
definitely
can make some bones for
with all the coach stuff they had go on. So
yeah.
yeah, I honestly I would expect Tulane. I'm not looking at it, but what's the line on that? Is Tulane's got to be favored in that game, right?
Yes, Tulane, 4.5 favorite.
Oh, 4.5's low.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Northwestern this year, but I expect Tulane to win that game.
Yeah, I do too. And like the UTSA is going to Texas A&M. That's another pay me game there. A&M's hoping it's a pay me game. UTSA is coming in with full intention of pulling off the upset, but Elko, I think he'll have his boys prepared. It's just going to be whoever the starting quarterback is for the Aggies this year, can he deliver? The rest of the games this weekend will be just pay me games for the teams coming in.
Yeah.
Well, you got Rice and Louisiana. I think that'll be an interesting matchup there. And that could go either way. So, but it's opening weekend. You're gonna have a lot of pay me games.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't know what that means, that's where you sign up for the butt weapon for, to fund your athletic department for the year by taking some of these games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the one problem with week one is that there are traditionally so many of these pay me games. Week 1, week 2, week 3, you get a lot of those. Now, luckily for us, and we will talk about those later, there are several really big matchups this week 1.
Yeah.
So, and they're positioned all throughout the weekend, so there's nothing really super of note on Thursday, but then from Friday to Sunday, you've got good games. I keep forgetting what Monday's game is, but it's kind of doo-doo. So, yeah, but so anything else from the American?
No, that's it.
Right.
It's like I said, it's a pay me weekend for them.
Let's go ahead and jump over to Conference USA.
All right, let's see, Conference USA. This is gonna be another pay me weekend here. So Jacksonville State's going over state, or I guess down and over state to Central Florida. That's the Thursday night game. Friday, you've got payment game with Kennesaw State going to Wake Forest. Saturday, Missouri State goes to USC in a major payment game here. USC is a 35.5 point favorite, and that feels like that's not enough.
Yeah.
It just like bet the over.
Yeah.
If that's your thing, bet the over. We got an in-state game here with Southeast Louisiana traveling over to Ruston to play Louisiana Tech. Southeastern, they're at least in football, they're FCS. So that's one of those. It's a payment game, but it's an in-state matchup, so it'll be a fun one for the fans to watch.
Did you notice that with the redesign of the ESPN app, they are now putting FBS and FCS and then 1A and 1AA in parentheses, which tells me that it's okay to keep calling them that. I still call them 1A and 1AA. I mean, all the time, and it's been way too many years for me to have not been used to that. But now I feel like I have permission to freely say that.
My app must not have updated because it's not showing like that on mine, but that's all good.
Well, it's not on the website,
really,
just on the phone app. But
that's what I'm on the phone app here,
you.
and it's that's really all I have from the Conference USA. Like I say, it's our weakest conference we cover, and it's a big payment weekend for the conference.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, there will certainly be big weeks. So let's move on over to the Sun Belt. What do we have there?
All right. So we can kind of skip Thursday, Friday, because Friday we've already covered, and Thursday it's a nothing burger game. Saturday we open up at a game I'll be at. Mississippi State makes the trip down to Hattiesburg to take Southern Miss on. Mississippi State is a 12.5 point favorite.
What's that, about 4 hours? 4.5 hours?
No, I think it's about 3 hours.
Oh, okay. My mom, who went to Mississippi State, but also I don't think has been from Hattiesburg to Starkville or vice versa. I was asking her the other day, and she said she thought 4 or 4.5, but she wasn't really sure. So.
Yeah, I think it's around 3. I made that drive once, but it was 20 years ago, so I don't remember at this point. Old Dominion travels to number 20 Indiana. This is the Southern Miss Mississippi State game is on the main network, ESPN. Old Dominion at Indiana. Indiana is a 24-point favorite in this one. This is on FS1. Marshall goes to number 5 Georgia. You gonna take a guess on the spread on this one, Matt?
Okay. Well, if USC was a 35-point favorite, they don't really like to go over about 42. I'll say 38.
39.5.
Okay.
You were close.
Well, I mean, they typically don't go over about 42. About 6 touchdowns is about the most I think I've ever seen. So,
yeah.
Since you phrased it like that, I assumed it was high.
Yeah. Now this is a matchup. I think this is a Sun Belt ACC matchup, but I think the Sun Belt team has a shot at winning. Coastal Carolina takes the trip up to Charlottesville to our founding fathers school, University of Virginia. UVA is a 12.5 point favorite. Same as the Southern Mississippi State game. So, very similar lines there. And I think both teams, Southern Miss and Coastal, have a chance to win their matchups here this weekend.
By the way, I do want to mention my hot take for this conference and a matchup from this conference is that yes, I think Georgia will be in control of the game all game. Yes, I think Georgia will win by a ton of points. Yes, I think Georgia is going to be a national championship contender. But I'm taking way under the spread on that. I'm taking Marshall in the spread. I think it's going to be more like 20 or 21, maybe 24. But I don't think it's ever a game that feels close. But I feel like this is a conducive situation for just a tiny scare. Just enough that it's like, okay, we're not leaving till the fourth quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you got to remember, though, Marshall has got a whole new coaching staff, a whole new team.
Well, that's kind of why I think that, because we've seen that in the past, like with this new era when you have like a whole brand new everything, like not just coaching staff or not just a player or two. You can have, it's basically like you said, like everybody in the building is new. That kind of happened to A&M last year. And so if they come together and they gel right, I think, while Kirby Smart won't be doing this, let's be honest, Georgia's players aren't Alabama under Nick Saban. They're not going to be quite as mentally disciplined, so they're probably going to be thinking, oh, it's Marshall, whatever. And rightly so, because talent-wise, it's like a 98 talent versus like a, maybe a 35 or 36. But these group teams, these non-power conference teams that come to play, for the most part, are giving it everything they've got. And so you combine that with, you don't have anything on tape with the coaching staff combined with these players. You have players on tape, you have the coaching staff on tape, but you don't have the combination basically at all. And so that's why I think I don't think it's ever upset alert. I don't think it's like in the third quarter it's like a touchdown game, but I think it's like, 14, 17 points, and then, when the fourth quarter hits, they're like, okay, we can breathe and, go ahead and leave early. So I don't want to misrepresent what I'm saying. I don't think it's like in any way going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be 39.5.
Right. Now, if Mississippi State is smart, they'll just watch Marshall film from last year, because I think half the roster from Marshall's team last year is on the Southern Miss team for this year.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Mississippi State when we get to the SEC, because I've got a couple of thoughts on them. So,
all right. Looks like the rest of the weekend, you got Georgia State making the trip down to number 21 Ole Miss. I got to tell you, I know a few Ole Miss fans. They're a little nervous about. I don't know so much about this game, but they don't know how their quarterback's going to be. I'm hearing quite a few of them that are thinking this is going to be a bad year for them. When I say a bad year, I mean 8-win max. That I don't think they think they're going to go 3-9 or anything like that. But I'm not hearing a lot of confidence out of the fans about the quarterback situation.
Yeah, I mean,
right now.
Here's the thing, though, and I don't have my finger on the pulse of Ole Miss like a lot of people do, but what I do know is I'm very familiar with the product that Lane Kiffin puts out. Now, Jackson Dart's one thing, who is very likely going to replace Russell Wilson as the starter at some point this season. Like, he's good enough to do that. But Matt, the guy before him, Matt, guy from LA,
Corral.
Yeah, and who was the Bills? No, that was Hugh Freeze, the Bills' grandson.
Chad Kelly.
Yeah, but basically every quarterback that Lane Kiffin has had, particularly at Ole Miss, has been great at Ole Miss or pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I brought up the pro thing is because right now it seems like the only one who is like good without Lane Kiffin was Jackson Dart. And so what I kind of think is maybe this quarterback isn't that great, but I have yet to see Lane Kiffin run a quarterback out onto the field that didn't at least perform well for Lane Kiffin. So
Yeah.
maybe they only win 8 games, but I guarantee you it won't be because of quarterback play. Well, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I'm fairly confident that it won't be because of quarterback play.
Yeah, and if I don't remember the kid's name, but if this is the same kid I've been reading about, I mean, this kid's smart as a whip and he's extremely athletic. Like he's gonna be able to read the defense and he's gonna be able to get out of situations with his legs. He'll be more athletic than Dart was, and Dart was very slippery last year for Ole Miss. So I think the fans are just nervous because they were on such a high last year. You know, they had this disappointment where they didn't make the playoff. But I mean, they had a really good team last year, and then they lost a lot of pieces, and they lost their star quarterback that they loved. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, when LSU lost Jaden Daniels a couple years ago to the draft. You know, you had a lot of fans that were like, we're you know, we don't know anything about this Garrett Nussmeier, which if they paid attention, you knew a little bit about him because he played pretty well against Georgia in the SEC championship game when he came in.
Right.
But, you know, it's that new thing, especially when you're replacing a quarterback like that. When you've had such a successful quarterback, it's I know it can be scary. So, you know, that's just one of those things. They're going to have to get a couple games under them, and they'll chill out and they'll be okay. Unless he comes out and starts stinking it up, and then maybe they have a right to be
sure.
You know,
and he may not be great to start, but I think he'll be fine by the end of the season because of who his head coach is. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. So now I'm gonna run through the top 25 matchups for the ACC and the SEC, and then I've written down a few that I want us to circle back to. Forgot one. All right, there we go. All right, so there's not really any games of note on Thursday or Friday. In terms of the top 25. Now, of course, Auburn and Baylor are on Friday, so that's not necessarily a game that we need to talk too much about, but it's an interesting game.
Yeah.
And I think that one will be definitely one to watch. All right, so starting on Saturday, because yay, Fox has the coverage, right at 12 noon. Number 1 Texas is going to number 3 Ohio State. That's so frustrating to me that it's a noon game. But the good news is we will have great games all day because of it. So, and we're going to come back and talk about that. Syracuse is going to number 24 Tennessee. Marshall, we've already talked about going to Athens. Alabama is going to Tallahassee to play Florida State. Illinois State is going to Oklahoma. UTSA is going to Texas A&M. LSU will be at Clemson. And then, Georgia State going to Ole Miss. Just talked about that one. East Texas A&M is going to number 16 SMU. So, good luck, East Texas A&M. I'm just judging by the fact that I've never. It's amazing. I've been watching college football as long as I can remember, and every single year, some SEC school plays a school that I've literally never heard of. There are 2 of them this weekend. Florida plays Long Island University, and Southern Methodist plays East Texas A&M. So, and there was one earlier in one of the other conferences that I had never heard of either. So,
So they're the Lions. I know that about them now. And they have a 1% chance to win, according to the ESPN predictor.
Yeah. So Virginia Tech is going to South Carolina, and then that's on Sunday, and then Notre Dame is going to Miami also on Sunday. I said that Virginia Tech's going to South Carolina. They're not. That's in Atlanta. But South Carolina is the designated home team. All right, so I've got 6 games that I want to talk about. Before I do that, were there any others that you wanted to mention?
Well, you were talking about the game on Monday. That was TCU and North Carolina. So that could actually be a pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Belichick.
I keep forgetting. Yeah, so I'm not interested in that game other than I want to see Belichick. So, I'm interested in that the way I am the Auburn-Baylor game. Like I think it'll be good to see.
On Friday, Georgia Tech goes to Colorado.
Well, I'm not interested in that because, in my personal opinion, I think Georgia Tech's going to wipe the floor with Colorado. But that's me.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech's a 4.5-point favorite.
4.5. This is an old Georgia Tech, though. This is Georgia Tech was good last year.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what Prime is without Shedeur and Travis Hunter.
I think he'll be fine, relatively speaking. But let's be honest. In 2 years at Colorado, what'd they win? 8 games last year. They won 4 games his first year, which I predicted, by the way. I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I'm actually terrible at predictions. But I remember calling the 4 games the first year. But anyway, so he wins 4 games the first year, which say what you want about Shedeur as a pro quarterback. He was a great college quarterback. Well, he was really good. But they also had Travis Hunter. And then, so what do they win? A combined 12 games in 2 years and no bowl game? So if that's the ceiling with those guys,
they went to a bowl game last year, didn't they?
No, they didn't win a bowl game. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No,
okay.
Sorry, no bowl victory. No bowl victory.
Okay.
So that's my point. Is I don't think they're gonna win 2 games, but I'd be really surprised if they won more than 6. That's kind of where my head is at.
I'm wondering how much longer Deion wants to coach. Now that he's got his kids through. Like,
I think he wants to coach. I just think he wants to coach in the National Football League.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I think he said as much, but he just wants to coach his kids if he does that. But so that's a Friday game.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a handful of games on Friday that are interesting. Of course, the only one on Thursday that I'm really interested in is the Boise State game. I don't care too much to watch the Missouri game. But I heard, I don't know, Heather Dinich or somebody saying that South Florida has a sneaky chance to beat Boise State. They don't. I mean, they don't. I get that the game is in Tampa, but they don't. That's all I'll say.
It's funny you mentioned Heather Dinich because I got an alert, I think today, from the ESPN app, and it said Heather Dinich, and I was like, "Who is Heather?" It came up like it was like a text message. I was like, "I don't have a Heather," and then I realized it was ESPN alert. I was like, "They have changed it so much." I thought I had gotten a text message from. I was like, "Who is?" Oh,
that's funny. That's really funny. All right, so first let's talk about Mississippi State and USM. Really, I want to talk about Mississippi State. I don't really have an indicator, and I want you to speak on USM, kind of your prognostication of how you think they're going to do this year, just as a whole from 30,000 feet. But I'm going to call it right now. Mississippi State was voted either 15th or 16th in the preseason standings. Mississippi State's going to finish in the top 12. Now, they will probably finish 12th out of the top 12. Mm-hmm. But I think what people are forgetting is that Elko came in with no, not Elko, Lebby. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I think it's because they're both Adidas, they're both maroon and white, it just
right.
But Lebby came in last year with basically a whole new roster. I think it was I think I heard something like 18 of the 22 starters were transfers or something like that. It was nuts. And they had a terrible record, but if you go back and look at their games, they only had 2 or 3 games that they weren't in the second half. They played hard, right? second year for the coaching staff in the building. I think they're going to be decent. I don't think they're going to be great. Again, it's kind of like what I was talking about with, the game earlier with Marshall. Like, it's not that I think Marshall's going to have a chance against Georgia, but I think they're going to put up at least a fight. That's how I feel about Mississippi State this year against the SEC. Now, before we talk about this game, why don't you tell us, Quacker, about where some of the preseason predictions are surrounding the Golden Eagles?
I mean, I haven't really seen. I mean, if you look at like the writers and stuff, they still have the Eagles kind of down towards the bottom of the conference, but I just don't think they know what to make or think about the team. I don't know how you can look at the roster they have now because it's a completely different roster. There's 5 returning players, not starters, players from last year's team. It's all new, like either transfers or incoming freshmen that they from the signing class. So I mean, it's a completely rebuilt roster, completely rebuilt team. You've got the reigning, I think he won Coach of the Year, and Coach Huff. He won the conference championship last year with Marshall. He brought a ton of those players over. He brought the quarterback over that led the team to the championship. And they haven't released a depth chart, so there's no way to look at and really kind of figure out what I think of the team because I don't have anything to go off of because they just haven't released anything for us to look at and say, okay, this is kind of what I see. But I'm pretty sure that Braxton will be the quarterback. I mean, he was the quarterback for him last year. Outside of that, I don't know all that much just because they're not releasing. I mean, he's going out and talking, but coach speak and all is one thing, but it's seeing how things line up and all. It's a little bit different. You could gauge them more by that. So I think they're going to finish. I honestly think they can win 8 to 9 games this year, just off the talent that they've accrued. It's going to be how well they gel together. So, I mean, I give Southern a fighting chance in this game against State. It's at home. It's going to be hot. It's it'll be a packed out stadium. It'll be. I hate to say it, but it'll probably be 60-40 in the crowd. But it's just one of those things that until we get on the field with a whole new squad, it's almost impossible to really to figure anything out right now.
Yeah. Well, so I all that said, I'm not making a prediction about the game. I just I feel like that is a I feel like that's a thing worth mentioning that people aren't mentioning is that that this this Mississippi State team is very likely to be better than we think.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. So all right, so the next one I want to talk about, we talked about this a little bit last week, so I don't want to harp on it, but let's talk about Alabama traveling to FSU, and you kick us off with that, and then I'll jump in.
I mean, this is a situation with, again, I don't really know what to think of Florida State after last season. Alabama, we think they're going to be pretty good. I think Alabama comes in and I think they win comfortably. I'm not going to say that they're going to win by 28 or anything like that, but I think they have a comfortable game. I don't think they really are sweating in the fourth quarter. Just you know, the returning talent. The biggest question for them is how well the quarterback is going to play. Is it Sims? I think is their
I can't remember. I just know he's the guy who's talking trash about Alabama, which still blows my mind. But
yeah, but it's going to be how well he plays in his first start. So I think Florida State's going to have a better season than they did last year. If not, it's going to be the last year for Norvell in Tallahassee.
Well, maybe. I think the buyout is still an issue, but yeah, it's not looking great.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose enough games, 2 years in a row like that, I mean, LSU proved with Coach O, buyouts just a figure. I mean, Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher.
Well, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that both LSU and Texas A&M have more money than Florida State, because Florida State is, they're an educational school, so they don't, they're not poor, but they're not rolling in dough like a lot of these schools are. So, while I understand what you're saying, and I think I agree largely with your sentiment, I still think that Florida State is, even though they're a proud program, they may just not have the means to do it the way they want to, with regard to Norvell. Now, obviously, all of that remains to be seen because this could be a good team. I tend to think it's going to be somewhere between 5, 7, maybe 8 wins. So I don't think it's going to be like terrible. It's not going to be up to FSU standards, but I think it's going to be something that's at least they're not like ready to burn anybody at the stake or anything.
Right. I mean, he's kind of the living example of live by the portal, die by the portal. Instead of going out and recruiting his own players and building them up, he just goes and he gets them out of the portal. Sometimes it works, like it did 2 years ago, up until the Travis injury, and then you have a season like last year where it absolutely did not work. So
right, yeah. So like I said, I mean that remains to be seen. We will figure out. We'll figure all that out, as it comes. But that's
Alabama's
good.
Alabama's only a 13.5 point favorite. So
yeah. Well, I think that's honestly, I think
respectable.
I think that's pretty right about where if you think about it, that's where it probably belongs. It's a road game for Alabama. I think most people understand that Florida State, what happened last year, was an aberration, and even if they're not great, I don't think anybody thinks they're going to be like terrible, So, yeah. So, all right. So let's talk now about LSU and Clemson, and this one, we talked a lot about this one the other day. So what I'd like to do, and I did not prepare Quacker for this. I didn't prepare myself either. I just made the decision. So both of us are going off the cuff. I want you to give me a margin of victory and the team that's going to win.
All right. So the spread's 3.5 for Clemson. I think LSU wins, but I think it's going to be. I think they finally get over the first game woes. Because Garrett Nussmeier has had a full year as a starter to develop. I'm hearing some good things about him, out of their camp. I mean, he's one of course, now Clemson's quarterback is also being mentioned as a excuse me, a Heisman front runner. But everything you hear about the LSU team, about how loaded for war they are, I think LSU wins it, but I think it's a close one. I think it's maybe a 6-point game.
Okay. So I think LSU's the better team. I think probably Nussmeier is a better quarterback with his arm, and maybe a like the mistakes he makes. He is mistake prone, but so is Klubnik. But I think they're different kind of mistakes, and I think Klubnik sometimes are a little bit more. We can get over that, and sometimes Nussmeier's last year were okay. That's going to be a little harder to overcome. So while I think Nussmeier's probably a better quarterback, better raw talent. I think Klubnik is probably a little more polished. And I'm going to take Clemson, but I'm going to tell you why I'm going to take Clemson. It's not because of LSU. It's because of Brian Kelly. It's because I understand people expecting LSU to get off the schneid, and finally win an opener under Kelly. But I don't think at Clemson, with the best team they've had in 5 years, is the way to do it. So for that reason, for it being a road game, and I've told you before, I say this all the time. I don't think LSU is going to be shook when they're there, but I think Clemson's going to play better when they're there than they would if they were on the road or at a neutral site. So if Clemson's playing close to their best game, and again, Brian Kelly has not been. I want to give him this season to see if this is really true. But I honestly believe, I remember thinking when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU, I was thinking, well, he's going to win a national championship in 3 years because he got Notre Dame, in the top 10 basically every year. But I was convinced that was Notre Dame's ceiling because of their academic standards and everything else, and the way their limitations on how the university will accept transfers, everything like that. But then Marcus Freeman comes in, and he's already done better than Brian Kelly did,
Yep.
So right now, my gut tells me that Brian Kelly is running into the same issue at LSU because while the talent, the recruiting, the resources is all, as good or better than they're going to be at Notre Dame. Well, the talent's definitely better, but the resources are similar. It's also against, the best competition in the country. And so, and while I wouldn't say that every team in the ACC is there, I would put Clemson there. So I'm going to take Clemson. I'm going to take Clemson by 10. And let me tell you why I say 10. I think it's going to be like maybe it's going to be a one-score game late in the game, and I think Clemson's going to be milking the clock and either kick a field goal or run a touchdown and just dice it. When I say 10, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I honestly think LSU's a better team, but I think Clemson's probably better coached, and I think they're a little more polished, and they're at home. That's the main thing,
Yeah, I do think Dabo's proven to be the better coach. I mean, he's won 2, lost 2 national championships. But I mean, he's gotten to the dance 4 times. So he's put his team in a position to be a 4-time champion. So
yeah, and this is an old team, which is he built this team based on his values, which is they dip into the portal a little bit, but not a lot. So for the most part, this team is a team that's been at Clemson and developed under the staff. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But all right, so let's move now to Virginia Tech and South Carolina, and we talked about this one the other day too. So we won't dwell on it. But any thoughts on this one?
I don't know much about Virginia Tech as far as like returning players, but I know South Carolina's got Norwood returning at quarterback, and I think he's the difference. Yes, yeah. Norwood was I think the running back last year.
Yeah, maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Sellers. Yeah. I think he's a difference maker quarterback, and I think he'll be the difference this game. South Carolina is 8-point favorite. So, um, I mean, just looking at the matchup predictor, it's got South Carolina with a 70.9% chance to win. So that's almost hard to go against that. I think that they're on the upswing. Um, I think that Shane is starting to develop a real program at South Carolina, and I think they're getting close to taking that next step to being a contender for a playoff spot.
Well, I think this
So
is the year that's going to tell us because
yeah,
this is his 5th year, and since he's been there, he's had bad year, good year, bad year, good year.
yeah,
And last year, I don't even know that South Carolina fans would qualify necessarily as good as much as promising. Because they were fringe playoff, but
yeah,
really outside of Sellers, because they didn't have a terribly difficult schedule last year. Outside of Sellers, they were good. I don't think they were great. So this year's going to tell us if he turns around and has a bad year with the best roster he's had, plus probably a top 5 quarterback in the country. Then we'll know if he turns around, delivers, gives them 10 or 11 wins. I think we'll know. But this one's interesting to me because I expect South Carolina to be somewhere between an 8 and 10 win team, which I think against their schedule is brilliant, But I also expect Virginia Tech to kind of to take at least a little bit of a step forward. So, I think I tend to agree. In my brain, I'd give South Carolina about a 70-75% chance of winning. Actually, that's not true. I'd probably give them more like an 85% chance. But I just don't know how the game's going to unfold, But again,
yeah,
that one's mainly interesting because of the coaching connection and everything there.
yeah.
All right, so we got 2 more to talk about. Let's go to the other one on Sunday and talk about Notre Dame at Miami. And I'll go first on this one. I think for the first time, I have never been a Notre Dame hater because I generally feel like they generally, even though they're independent, schedule a fairly tough schedule. Like I never feel like they're just playing cupcakes, like some of the Big Ten teams do. So I've always kind of been a defender of them at that. But I feel like for the first time in my lifetime, what I'm about to say, the vast majority of people, sports fans, would agree with me. Notre Dame at number 6 is by no means overrated. If anything, they're underrated. Marcus Freeman obviously took them to the national championship game last year, and they fought like crazy, to the end. So I expect Notre Dame to be a top 5 team all year. I think Miami's team, let's take quarterback out for a second because obviously Cam Ward was number 1 overall. So, what are you going to say? Or number 1 quarterback. But so what are you going to say about that? Nothing. But so take that out for a second. I think the overall roster minus quarterback is slightly worse than they were last year. Not a lot worse, just slightly.
Yeah.
Then the question becomes, are we getting 2023 Carson Beck or 2024 Carson Beck? Because if it's 23, I think Miami could win this game. If it's 24, well, Miami better just give them the keys to the building because it's not going to be fun. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like Miami has a fighting chance if Carson Beck does what he did 2 years ago. If he's last year's distraction-filled, head's not in the game quarterback, making dumb mistakes, then I feel like Notre Dame wins. It's over by halftime, and Miami once again proves why. Miami fans once again prove why no one respects Miami sports because they're going to be gone, in the second quarter. And sorry, Miami fans just don't show up to sporting events, and it just boggles my mind.
It doesn't matter if it's high school, college, or pro. They just don't show up.
Yeah. Now I do think they show up for Dolphins, Marlins, and Heat. but I think that's it. Definitely Heat. Like Heat games are normally full.
Yeah, Marlins games are pretty sparse. They may be a little bit better right now, but I've seen some of the crowds there, and it's
Well,
more empty
so
seats.
yeah, well let me rephrase. So I used to work for a company that was based in Miami, and I would have to go there about twice a month. Okay. So I've seen this firsthand is the only reason I know this. Marlins games that are night games usually have pretty good attendance. Obviously the MLB generally all of the day games are less well attended. Particularly not in the summer. But in Miami, there's a huge difference. I think you're talking about 95% full versus 15% full,
Right.
in the day. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on this? Because I think Notre Dame, if anything, is underrated, not overrated. And I just don't think anybody really understands what Miami's going to be until we see what kind of Carson Beck we're getting.
Yeah, in Carson Beck is such a mystery even unto himself, man. Because think back to last year in the Alabama game. I mean, he threw 2 or 3 interceptions in the first half. They got down real big, and then in the second half, he came out with the world on fire and pulled them back to a tie, and then threw an interception at the end of the game to lose the game. I mean,
yeah. Didn't he have we may have to look this up, but didn't he have a stretch last year of 3 games with 11 interceptions or something like that?
it was something that just boggled the mind. Yeah, it was a ton of interceptions in a very short period of time. I mean, we saw him throw 2. We've talked about this to no end, but at the Florida Georgia game last year, we saw him on back-to-back drives.
Yeah, and one of them could be argued was the receiver's fault, but the one that he threw over the middle, he was throwing to nobody.
Yeah.
Well, I say nobody. What I mean is there were 2 defenders, just blatantly in the way of the receivers. So, So, all right. So, yeah, I think we're on the same page there. It's what are we going to get,
Yeah.
Are we in agreement on Notre Dame? They're probably as good as advertised.
I think Marcus Freeman is very quickly becoming a top 10 coach in college football.
Yeah, I think I would probably already put him in my top 10 personally. Now.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. I mean, it could be a flash in the pan. Maybe this year they win 5 games, but I doubt it. I don't think that's gonna happen. All right, so final game we're going to talk about, and I'm excited about this, not because I have any love for this school, because I don't at all, but we don't ever really get to talk about the Big Ten. So we're going to talk about Texas going to Columbus to play Ohio State. All right, so I'm not going to bury the lead. I think Ohio State's going to win this game, but I think they're going to play again in the playoff, and I think Texas is going to win. I think Texas is better, but I think I may have shared this last episode. I believe that for the vast majority of big-time regular season games, especially at home, Ohio State tends to play very well. And you can miss me with they lost to Michigan 2 years in a row. That's a rivalry that's different. I'm just talking about they play. They're no stranger to non-conference big-time games like this, and a lot of times they're at the shoe. So I think Texas is a better team. I think this is similar to my thoughts on LSU and Clemson. I think the better team will not win, but the difference here is I feel like LSU might be slightly better than Texas or than Clemson. I think Texas might be an order of magnitude better than Ohio State. But I think that because Ohio State is chock full of talent, has pretty good coaching, I think they'll win this game. Now, huge asterisks here. I'm writing my asterisks in the air. Chip Kelly's gone. So there is a chance that albeit a small one, there is a chance that this Buckeye offense comes out and it's just a train wreck. and if they
Mm-hmm.
are, Texas is going to win easily. But I don't. I'm not. None of my reasoning is. I don't think Arch Manning's going to have the jitters. I don't think he's going to be a bust or anything like that. But I do think this is the biggest game he's played in his life, and even if he's got nerves of steel, you can't not mention that.
Yeah.
Because he's got the keys to the Cadillac now, and you got to make a road trip, down the most dangerous highway in America to get started. So those are my thoughts. Let's hear what you got on that.
I mentioned this stat last week, but the when a team is starting a quarterback for the first time against the number one ranked team, they're 0-18. So Ohio State is breaking in a new quarterback, his first start ever, and of course it's against number one Texas. Does that have any merit on the game? No, but it's an interesting fact. This is a highly, a 1 versus 3. Ohio State's a 2.5 point favorite, which is basically just it's a pick 'em when you see that, because you get 2 or 3 points for being at home.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be. I think this game and the LSU Clemson game are going to be the two best games of the weekend. I think this comes down to the very, very end. I don't see either team pulling away. Texas went to Michigan last year.
If a team does pull away, it's going to be Texas, because Ohio State's offense doesn't click. But I agree with you. Or okay, let me back up. I could see Ohio State winning a game by like 17 or something like that if a handful of balls bounce the right way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Ohio State's got the best receiver in the country, and that Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, but in other news, water's wet. Like they're always pumping out good receivers.
Yeah. But this guy was a freshman last year, was the best player on the team. So that's the safety blanket for a quarterback making his first start, is just get it close to Jeremiah. He's going to catch it. So, I think he'll come up big in some big spots for Ohio State. I think Texas wins, but I think it's a very close win. You're not going to see Arch coming out halfway through the fourth quarter, because Texas is up by 30 points or anything like that. So it's going to be one of those that it could be last team with the ball wins type situation. I really think this is going to be one of those games. It comes down to who's made the least mistakes, and whose quarterback has played the smarter game. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting, and like I said, I definitely feel like that Texas could win the game going away. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game, but I think Ohio State will come out on top in this one. All right, real quick before we go, we're going to do one. We talked about doing this, and it's my fault. I dropped the ball on it, and I completely forgot. But we're going to do one superlative. I want you to tell me who the 2025 national champion is going to be. And I'll give you a second because I'm putting you on the spot. I'll go first. Last year, I picked Oregon, and for most of the year, I felt really, really good about that until they got in the playoffs. Now, part of that was the way the seeding was set up. But
yeah,
the way Ohio State was playing, they probably would have had to play them eventually anyway. So I'm not sure that would have necessarily mattered. It just looks worse because they lost, in their first game. But so this year, picking another Big Ten team, although I think there are about 4 SEC teams that have a real chance. Those being LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. And then a couple others with, pipe dreams that could come true. But my 2026 2025 national champion is none other. You ready for this? I'm excited to say this. I don't think you've ever picked this team to win it. Number 2, Penn State.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you were
they've
gonna
been
say.
good. Well, they've been good a lot in
Yeah.
their history, but they haven't been good a lot in my lifetime. So, they have, but I was like, not in kindergarten yet. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll go ahead and kind of let you behind the curtain, a little inside baseball. I don't really think they're gonna win it, but I'm gonna try and will them to win it. Because I think I have a little bit more optimistic outlook towards or optimistic opinion of Franklin than you do, but I think this team's just really talented, and at some point they got to break through,
I think he's a good coach. I just think that in the biggest games, he has a tendency to kind of choke just a little bit. I've seen him lose too many really big games as head coach to completely buy into him. I mean, look what he did for Vanderbilt. I mean, Vandy was terrible. He went there. He made them a perennial bowl team while he was there. When he left, they fell off. Maybe they've turned around now, but.
So I can't remember how many years he's been there. I want to say like 8 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be close to a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I wonder, and I started thinking this last season, and we'll know down the road. But I wonder if Penn State's legacy and reputation was so tarnished by the end of the Joe Pa era, and we're not going to go into all the details, but there were some awful things that happened within about a 3 or 4 year period that really, really shocked the sports world, like in ways that you're not typically shocked by sports. And then obviously, shortly after leaving Penn State, Joe Paterno died, and they had to deal with, how do we handle a legendary career that ended in such a unfortunate way. Now, obviously,
yeah,
I'm not implying that Paterno was complicit, but he was culpable because he was the head of the snake. So, and I think that's an important distinction because I don't think he was necessarily directly responsible, but that's, culpability is almost worse because you have less control, but it's still your responsibility. So anyway, I'm not going to get too much into that. What I'm saying is I wonder if this program was just debilitated in a way that we really haven't seen from a program since maybe SMU. And again, we were really too young to remember that. So I wonder if it really just took O'Brien and then Franklin to rehabilitate that program,
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that for many, many years, a lot of Midwest parents who otherwise would have been happy for their son to go play at Penn State were like, maybe look at some other schools, and that's not including the sanctions. There are probably some internal things that restricted a lot of football activities so that they could just ensure that there was absolutely no, foul play going on or whatsoever. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really know, but I do kind of wonder that. So there is a part of me that thinks it's not Franklin at all, that it's just, he had a much bigger mountain to climb than we thought.
Yeah. I was just, while you were talking, I was curious. So Joe Pa retired from Penn State 2011. And that means
came after that.
he was there for 2 years.
O'Brien.
Because James Franklin became head coach in 2014. So he's in
Okay,
year
so
12 or
okay,
13.
yeah. So I
12.
that was kind of right about where I thought. I just couldn't remember how long Bill O'Brien was there. So
Yeah, a
um,
very short time. He must have been there just long enough to get a cup of coffee and then head on over to
well,
Houston for the.
didn't he go back to the Patriots? He went to Houston.
Yeah, he went because he left there to be head coach with
Oh,
the
I
Texans.
thought he went back to New England. But anyway, I kind of remember that scenario because everybody was commending him for taking on that thankless task of, taking a program in shambles, and then he left 2 years later, and a bunch of people were upset about it. But in my mind, I'm like, dude, he just, he took up the cross and nobody wanted to take up.
Yeah,
What do you want from him?
yeah,
So, and even being there 2 years, he probably bore the brunt of a lot of the stuff. But anyway, I mean, that's the thing. And I could be totally wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's just not a very good big game coach, or maybe he's the coach that always loses a game he's not supposed to lose, which messes him up. But I didn't see that last year, and because I didn't see that, I'm kind of wondering, was last year just lightning in a bottle, or are we seeing now a fully rehabilitated, fully functioning Penn State football program for the first time,
yeah.
Since the early 2000s?
Yeah, I mean that'll be interesting to follow and see this year. Penn State's one of those traditional blue blood programs that I mean we say this all the time. It seems like, but it just college football is better when they're competitive and they're competing for championships because of the tradition they have and because of what the program traditionally meant to college football. I mean, again, the end of the Joe Pa, time there was not how you would want a career like his to end. Kind of like in a completely different circumstance, but like Bowden at Florida State, completely different circumstances, but still it didn't go out on his terms.
Yeah. I think the difference is Bowden was being forced out because Florida State wanted to move on a little quicker than Bowden wanted to move on. The Joe Pa situation, again, I really like the word here, culpability, because I don't for a second think he was a participant or enabling any of that. But when you are the head of an organization, ultimately, that's why you see, CEOs take the fall all the time for, Disney with Chapek. Like, Chapek didn't make every decision that messed up Marvel and the theme parks during 2019 and 20 and 21, but he sure is the one who took the fall, and so I think it's a little different just because I think Bowden just wasn't ready to leave as quickly as Florida State was ready to get rid of him. It's still sad.
Yeah.
But I just think this is a little different just simply because, Bowden probably at the end of the day was able to hang up his hat and say, I'm real proud of my career. Whereas there's always going to be a little bit of sadness to the fact that Joe Pa probably walked into his house his first day being retired and was just like, I can't believe I worked for all those years for this to be my legacy,
Yeah.
Now, of course, I think history will tell that that's not his whole legacy. But like when we look back and we look at Rupp or John Wooden or Bear Bryant not so much because he didn't have as much of this. But, we're not talking about some of the if we're being honest, probably racist things that were associated with them. Or, when we look back at JFK, we're not necessarily talking about his infidelity or supposed infidelity or whatever. We're talking about their positive legacy. But then in a shorter term, my whole life, the only thing I've ever heard about Pete Rose was what ended his time, in baseball. Yeah. And so I think for the short-term future, that's what we're going to see from Joe Pa or hear about from Joe Pa. But I think in the long term, in the 50, 60-year outlook, it's going to be his lasting legacy, not what ended it,
Yeah.
But anyway, I did not mean to go down that rabbit trail. Good conversation to have. Because
Yeah.
he's an all-time great, and we don't, he's not one that comes up a lot. But so yeah, I've got Penn State. So let's hear your 2025 national champion.
Um, I mean, this seems so cliche because
Can I guess it?
you can guess.
Is it Texas?
Yeah, I mean it's so cliche, but I mean they're so loaded. I mean they're. I was really, for me it's between them and LSU. I have more faith in Sarkisian as a head coach than I do.
Well, that's my biggest hang-up with LSU. I don't even think LSU is going to make the playoff because of Brian Kelly. It's not their team. I don't know that I really trust Brian Kelly. Like, I think they're a playoff caliber team for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If they miss the playoffs this year, and as loaded as this team is, you may see. I don't remember how big the buyout for Jimbo was, but you may see some records being set on buyouts in the Bayou because, like, first year they were happy they beat Alabama, they made it to the SEC championship game. Year two, they had an offense that was capable of winning the whole thing, but they had a defense that couldn't stop a sixth grade Pee Wee football team.
Well, I mean,
so
won a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I mean, and didn't even sniff the playoffs. It was just he had to score all those points because if he didn't, the team wouldn't have won any games. I mean, like the defense is just that bad. Last year, they were a playoff team until they weren't. They had a 3-game stretch where they were just horrible. And I mean, if you have another season like that this year, it's going to be tough to keep the fans in Baton Rouge. It's going to be tough to keep them patient for another 8-9 win season.
Yeah.
So
well, I think so. Here's what I think is interesting. I mentioned earlier that I feel like there are 4 SEC teams with legitimate national championship hopes, and I do believe that are the 4 teams that I mentioned. But I think that LSU, they have like diet hopes in my mind because of what I've said with Brian Kelly. But so I feel like you have Alabama, Alabama, who I expect to take a step forward. You have Georgia, you have Texas. Georgia is going to be good. Texas is going to be good. Obviously, there's a chance that Arch isn't what he's, isn't as advertised, but I think that's a small chance,
Yeah.
It's not a big chance. Then you have 3 teams, and this is going to surprise some people, I think, but then you have 3 teams that I think have playoff rosters. All 3 of them I have questions about coaching, and that would be LSU, Florida, and South Carolina. All of them have quarterbacks capable of winning a Heisman. When I just understand when I say capable, there's probably 12 or 13 players every year that are capable. I'm not saying that they'll be in New York.
Yeah.
But all 3 have quarterbacks that are capable of winning Heismans. All of them have defensive linemen and offensive skill position players who are going to be pros. I think all 3. I'm not sure about South Carolina, but definitely LSU and Florida have defensive backs who are going to be pros. These teams have in Florida Florida might have the best offensive line in the country, but all 3 have playoff rosters. All 3 of them, my jury's still out on the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one I trust the least is Brian Kelly because he came into the most talent-rich situation. Because say whatever you want about Coach O, it's a known fact that he's one of the best recruiters in college football. So the cupboard wasn't bare at LSU.
Well, they had like 30 players left on the roster when he got there. They had all jumped ship because by the time O was fired, things had gotten really bad at LSU. It went back to 2020 and some of the things that were happening on campus. Just a weird time, and the players he kind of lost the players.
But that can be a misleading stat, right? Because you have, I think, 62 NFL's 53. I think it's 62 or no, 63 NFL's 52, something like that. That you can dress, but you can have a roster of like, I think you can have like 103, but that includes your scout team that plays or that dresses for home games. But essentially will never play. So that's a little misleading because when you factor in outgoing seniors, and then your normal transfer slate, which I would imagine, a program like LSU probably averages between 5 and 8 players who get playing time in a normal year. So that tells me they probably had like 12 or 13 or 14, on top of their normal transfer plus, their normal outgoing seniors. So, because typically on any given year, depending on what number you're using, whether you're using your travel roster, which is your real roster that actually is like on the 3 deep, right? And then you've got your home roster, which includes guys that are never going to play ever under any circumstances. Like I've seen 4th and 5th string SEC quarterbacks be dressed and be skipped over by like a wide receiver who played quarterback once in middle school, when they get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that, I think it depends like what number we're basing it off of and how many because Alabama had a similar situation. They had a bunch of players leave. But the cupboard wasn't bare. And that's my point is like LSU had people leave and they may have had like a larger number than normal in a coaching year like that. But the cupboard still wasn't bare.
Yeah, I do remember they didn't have a quarterback on the roster. Like they had to play because they somehow they played a bowl game that his last season, but they had to play it with like a running back or a wide receiver playing quarterback because like they had all 3 hit the transfer portal. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a great example. They didn't have a quarterback on the roster. Well, since Kelly's been there, he's had a quarterback win a Heisman Trophy, and who, by the way, is doing great in the pros. Made the playoffs last year. Yeah, right? As a rookie. Yeah.
And now LSU has a quarterback who is a preseason, top 5 Heisman favorite. So that's kind of my point. Is it's like, say whatever you want about like who was there when he got there. LSU's gonna get players.
Yeah.
And so like and the fact that he's had not that he's just had serviceable players, but he's had a Heisman Trophy winner and a Heisman odds favorite in 4 years. That's 2 of his quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Those are his 2 quarterbacks, but my point is like those are 2 of his 4 years. And that's why I think I trust him the least out of those guys is because LSU will always have talent. Brian Kelly was supposed to be, I thought, when he got there, I thought he was a top 5 college coach. Right now, I'd probably put him 12 or 13, maybe lower.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's where
I was a fan of the hire when they hired him.
Yeah,
I am less so now.
I thought it was a great hire. I was like, man, if you're not an LSU fan, you should be really nervous, which was me because I'm not an LSU fan. I was like, this is bad news for everybody else because he's going to do great things there. And like I said, I think I don't know as much about LSU as you do. You live a whole lot closer than I do, but I don't know if I necessarily can see them buying him out if they just miss the playoffs. But I can certainly see that being a topic of conversation among the decision makers.
Yeah.
But you're more keyed in. I'm 800 miles away from Louisiana. You're like 10 minutes. So,
Yeah, literally 10 minutes. Yeah.
oh, are you?
Yeah.
I was being hyperbolic. I didn't realize you were actually 10 minutes. Actually, that's right, because wasn't your high school like over the state line, or
No,
just
no,
on the state line?
no. My high school was about 20 miles from state line.
Did you have students from across the state line?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Okay, because I always thought that was
Yeah.
weird, but since it's private, I guess that that's why they do that. So, but
Yeah.
all right, well we have we've gone long. This has been good though. Lots of conversation. And we're gonna change our format this year a little bit. It's gonna be similar to what you saw tonight, where we'll highlight some key games and we'll just converse. We'll talk about what we expect, what we like, what we don't like, things like that. Don't forget to check out Southbound on Wednesday night. Once we get a time, we'll get that out on X. But if you like the NFL, even if you don't like the NFL, come check it out. Maybe we'll make you fans, as long as you're a Saints fan. All right, so Quacker, where can people find you?
You can find me on X at Marty Quacker.
All right, and you can find me. I'm not gonna mess it up this time. At MattheWWWBROWN. That's Matthew with 2 extra W's, brown like the color, on X. Thank you guys for joining us. We are so excited about the start of college football. Oh, by the way, before I forget, tune into College Game Day, the last headgear pick for Lee Corso. And if you haven't watched it, go watch Not So Fast, my friend. It's an hour-long feature on Lee Corso. It's phenomenal. He's never going to hear this, so this is just for us. But to Coach Corso, we love you. Thank you for being, one of the major voices of our childhood.
Right.
All right. We will see you guys next time. Have a great week.